And welcome in to Full Court Blitz. This is KJ McCurley alongside Alex Baumann. Alex, man, we have a lot to talk about. But first, hey, and I got to shout you out for giving me the green light on this one. And that is my frustrations currently as an Auburn Tigers fan. I know a lot of logical Auburn fan. I have to point that out because like Alabama, like Georgia, like any other college football team, Auburn has a group of unlogical, unrealistic Auburn fans. And then you have this group that I consider myself in of just like a fan, but just a logical, reasonable fan. And here's the thing. The Auburn Tigers have turned into the Plains of Pain. And there's no question about it that a lot of this falls on Hugh Freeze. Another close loss last week. 2 weeks in a row, Alex, one score separating Auburn and the opponent. And Hugh Freeze is, I believe, 4-12 or 4-13 in games decided by 7 points or less.
Wow.
And that at some point, and I'm talking to the Auburn boosters here, I'm talking to the Auburn alum, I'm talking to all of the guys that make the decisions at Auburn. I'm not saying that it's an answer to let go of the guy right now, because to be honest, I don't know if there's anyone that you can get that's going to be good enough to recruit on the level that your rivals are recruiting with. But what I do know is that changes need to be made with the development of the players, and changes need to be made in the morale of the team and the balance and the physical nature. And the mentality has just got to change. It's just a lot of passive one-on-one football. It's a lot of, I know what I want to do, so I'm in no way, shape, form, or fashion going to divert from it or try to disguise it. I mean, I'll start with one example. Cam Coleman, I think, is a great place to start. Cam Coleman, you're looking at his stats, and this guy can – physically and talent-wise, I think you'd agree, measure up with most of the great receivers in the country right now. I mean, he's a top 10, maybe top 5 receiver in college football from a talent perspective. He has the physical tools. He has the drive. He has the determination. He blocks for the running game. He is so badly misused at Auburn, and it almost – really hurts me for him as much as it hurts me as a fan. And a lot of receivers, even before Hugh Freeze's time in my lifetime at Auburn, Darius Slayton, every time he touched the ball, seemed like it was going for huge yardage. Sammy Coates, at one point, averaged 30 yards after the catch in 2013. Yet all of these guys, and this year with Cam Coleman as well, that I'm naming, are not even at the forefront of what Auburn does because of they're not being put in the right positions. Every time we think we want to get Cam Coleman involved, this is what I mean, we're throwing 40-yard post patterns. We're throwing 2-yard curl routes. We're giving him maybe 1 or 2 jump ball fade patterns to the end zone a game. What are we doing to put him in a position to lead our receiving corps as a dominant receiver? What are we doing to put other receivers who have had good careers into a good situation in the NFL? We're telling receivers, if you come to Auburn, especially running backs, if you come to Auburn this year, I mean, you have Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb who average well over 4.5 yards a touch after contact most of the time. These guys are dynamic playmakers, and you don't even hardly look at them in these last 2 road contests. I understand Damari Alston was banged up. Jeremiah Cobb has been outstanding. The offensive line did look very, very bad at times the last few weeks, especially Xavier Chaplin. I'm not even going to get started on him. I think he just needs to learn the difference between what you can and can't do on the football field, because it doesn't look like he knows. To go back to what I was saying about the misutilization of players, so many guys you can look at that maybe have made the NFL but haven't had a long career. And a lot of that starts with you're not getting developed. You go to college to be developed. You know, is it great to have a freshman, 18 years old, that can start right away? Absolutely. But not every guy's meant for being like that. You go to college to get developed and to get put in a position to make money for your family in the NFL. Now you get NIL in college, so that money factor is down. But we're not doing anything to keep our skill players wanting to be at Auburn. We're telling running backs, no matter if you average 4 yards a carry, we're not going to go to you in big contests. And we're telling receivers, no matter how dynamic you are at taking the hat off of a defense, we're going to limit you to downfield passes and 2 yards on a curl route. We're not going to let you have anything go over the middle, put you in any kind of good position. We're not going to do any of that because it's not what we want to do. Auburn alum, Auburn faithful, when are we going to be tired enough of giving these people chances that don't put our guys in positions that they need to be in to win football games against the elites of the world? We're there, but we're not there. We're not at that level, and we're not going to be if we keep letting decisions be made by people who obviously can't make them. Figure out who's calling the plays. Forget about this debacle of first he's calling, second he's calling, third and fourth. No, there needs to be one person calling the plays deliberately, and if you can't have one person call the plays deliberately, stop hiring offensive coordinators. I've really had enough of Auburn's lackadaisical play calling. I think it cost us last week along with our offensive line play.
Auburn's 3-2 and 0-2 in the SEC on the season. And I think if you asked a lot of Auburn fans, if you were sitting here at 3-2 and 0-2 to start SEC play to begin the year, you would have been – it had been semi-okay because the two opponents you played were two really good teams in Oklahoma and Texas A&M. But it's not the fact they lost. It's kind of like Alabama. It's not the fact Alabama lost to Florida State in week 1. It's how they lost in those two games. If Oklahoma and A&M had scored on last-second touchdowns or last-second field goals, or it was just some crazy luck play, I would understand that. You know, Hugh Freeze had been doing his job. He just lost the games, and the teams were simply better than Auburn at that point. But the defense played better and well enough for Auburn to beat Texas A&M. The defense played well enough to beat Oklahoma. They did a great job against John Mateer in that game. And I understand the refs were horrible and they didn't benefit Auburn in that matchup. But refs, you can't just sit here and blame refs every game, every time. Oh, well, they missed 3 holding calls in this game. That's the reason we lost. No. You had 15 other chances to get the first down and 15 other chances to score that touchdown, but you didn't do it. You can't ref blame. As a Bama fan, we get caught doing that a lot. Or injury blaming. Oh, if we had Jamison Williams and John Mechie in the national championship, we would have beat Georgia. Okay. Well, what happened to the other 5 guys behind them? They're Alabama. You recruit better. The excuses, I'm tired of excuses from not only Auburn fans and Auburn coaching staff and Auburn players, but as in the sport in general. Stuff happens. It's going to happen. You have to expect it and you have to be prepared for it. And it feels like every year Hugh Freeze has been caught with his pants down and hasn't been able to prepare. Playing Texas A&M the way they played, your offense, horrible. I have never seen a more inefficient and asleep at the wheel offense than I saw in that football game. 1 yard of offense in the fourth quarter. I believe that the interception by Xavier Atkins, the total yardage he got there was more than the total yardage Auburn had in the second half of that football game.
It was
awful. The only touchdown you scored was because Xavier Atkins got you down to the 2-yard line. And just looking at some stats, over the last 2 games, Auburn's average distance to go on third downs have been 11.5 yards and 10.7 yards. Auburn would have been better spiking the ball on first and second down and trying to run it on third down. And we can sit here and criticize run the football Hugh Freeze. But you can't run the football on a third down when it's third down and 12 or third down and 11. It goes with the first two downs. Why are we not running the football? And if you don't get the yardage, okay, throw the ball on second and third down, or throw the ball on first down, run it on second down. It's apparent by the stats. And last game against A&M, 8 carries for the running backs. And you have your quarterback, Jackson Arnold, with 15 carries. And I get it, he's a scrambling quarterback, a dual threat. But he's not Johnny Manziel. He's not Tim Tebow. He's not Diego Pavia, as much as I hate Diego Pavia. He has legs, but it shouldn't be the first option for your offense. It should be, let's use our 2 talented running backs.
Amen. Yeah.
And give him the football and let him go. In the Oklahoma game, Jarquez Hunter broke off a 40-yard run, and he didn't see him the rest of the game. That showed me that Oklahoma knew that the pass was going to come or was going to be a QB run. They were not prepared for the running back. Use the running backs. And again, you're not using them. And the wide receivers, you go out and spend X amount of dollars on Eric Singleton Jr. in the portal, the number one wide receiver available.
Don't let him do anything but take an end-around carry and maybe get him on a small slant pattern. That's all that they let him do.
You have Cam Coleman. We throw him a curl pass, or it's a 40-yard sideline bomb down the field. Nothing over the middle. Yeah. And last year he struggled catching those balls because he was anticipating getting hit. Same thing with Ryan Williams. He still has problems with that. But they're not going to learn if you don't give it to him in game moments. Perry Thompson, where's he at? Caden Proctor at Alabama had more receptions than he did this week, and he's a left tackle. Bryce Kane, where's he at? Sam Turner. I heard great things about him this offseason. Where's he at?
Hadn't been used at all. It goes back to the utilization. And you talk about those 8 carries, 5 of them on third down and 5 or more. So 5 times of the 8 that you did run it, you ran it to concede the drive essentially and played the field position game. That's exactly what we're talking about. You don't mean to just point the finger at one person, but when an offense has looked the way that Auburn's has, you look at the head coach and you look at the quarterback, and Jackson Arnold holds on to the ball too long at times. Jackson Arnold has made a few bad decisions, but I also have seen a difference in Jackson Arnold and Peyton Thorne when he doesn't see something that he likes and he has time, he puts the football out of bounds and throws the football away. He has not thrown a really bad pass, but maybe one time this year, and it was not intercepted. And he does run the football effective when there's not so much pressure on him. The offensive line has got to be better on the tackle positions. Our offensive line coach that said that he would bench Xavier Chaplin if he had another false start penalty and did not, shame on you. And honestly, if I was Hugh Freeze and if Hugh Freeze had, the ups about him to do this.
A backbone.
I would. That's why I said ups as a nice way. But yeah, basically,
I was being blunt with it.
Yeah.
He gives me no reason not to be the way he coaches.
And you have to have that. And if he did have that, I would tell the offensive line coach that he doesn't have to worry about coming back out, because what you're telling the backups is it doesn't matter if you work hard, and it doesn't matter if you work hard and the guy ahead of you makes a mistake, you're still not getting the field. It's still not enough. That's what we're talking about. Auburn is on the verge of losing a lot of players in the portal this offseason if this trend continues. If you're going to lose trying to be putting your guys in the right positions, and lose trying to play some other players. Lose trying to try different things instead of being so predictable. Run, pass, or pass, run on third and long. It's easy for the defense to call if it's easy for me to call from my couch. You've just got to be better, Hugh Freeze, and you've got to get rid of the offensive play calling debacle. If you want to call the plays, call the plays. Stop having multiple people do it. It's a recipe for disaster, and you're seeing that, I think, right now.
Auburn's 0-13 last week on third downs, 3-27 on third downs over the last 2 weeks. A&M had more rushing yards than Auburn had passing yards and rushing yards. 5 sacks allowed last week against A&M, 15 in the last 2 weeks, 23 combined penalties in the last 2 weeks. I don't see a bright spot on the offense. And people have been criticizing Xavier Chaplin all week long. Block. Why aren't you blocking? You're penalized so much. And some of that's his fault. But it's, again, another reason and another example of not being set up for success. Why is Auburn not on a silent count on the road at Texas A&M? Why are we trying to do a clap count in a hostile environment where it's easily mistakable to mistake a coach clapping on the sideline or hearing a random clap from a fan two rows back in the stands or a random noise and jumping? That's what Xavier Chaplin's doing. He's hearing something or seeing something out of the corner of his eye. Oh, I got to go. I got to protect my quarterback. And then when he doesn't hear it and he's getting beat, that's another reason that's happening. That's how Ty Simpson was so successful against Georgia last week. They had a silent count, and he was going up to every single player on the offensive line and even the receivers that were close enough to him and saying, here it is, explaining different protections, explaining different things to them. And there was minimal mistakes from the offensive line. One of the best coach games I've seen from Kalen DeBoer and a quarterback at Alabama. Hugh Freeze and Jackson Arnold have no clue what's going on. No. And it goes back to Hugh Freeze and Kent Austin and Derek Nix. You got three heads of your offense over there, and we're still doing a clap count on one of the most hostile environments in college football.
Three heads and no sense in any of them, apparently. I can't, and that's what I'm saying. If you be deliberate, one person take it over and do something now, because this is just embarrassing, and you're telling backups that they don't deserve to play, even if the guy ahead of them makes a mistake, and that's just not a recipe for good football whatsoever. To go back to what you were saying about players being put in the right positions. Auburn didn't even use Jeremiah Cobb situationally, like whatsoever. You've got to start using some more players. You've got to put your players in the right positions. And when the players are in the right positions and you still take the fall, at least you can take the fall and knowing that you were where you were supposed to be. And Auburn's just not been where they were supposed to be. You can't ask your defense to do anything more. Eventually, you just have to take ownership of it and just say, we got to be better. We got to move the football, and we got to find somebody that can execute what we're trying to do, or we got to find a different way to execute what we're wanting to do.
And for Hugh Freeze, he can recruit all day long. He can get these 5 stars and these 4 stars and these number 1 players in the state of Alabama and so on and so forth.
Got to develop.
If you don't develop them, you don't coach them on the field, it means absolutely nothing. You can go be the coach at Texas Gulf Coast or whatever and have 1 and 2 stars and coach them up, and it'd be great. Hugh Freeze is a terrible in-game coach. I'm just going to say it bluntly. He's a terrible in-game coach. It's been proven to me for the past 3 years. Time to either go or improve and show me something. And he has done nothing over the past 3 years. And I don't want to hear, well, he doesn't have his guys. He's got to have time to develop them. This isn't 2010.
This is the make or break year. You've had 2 or 3 full recruiting classes. You've got the cherry pick in several situations. You've got 2 offensive minds, if you want to even call yourselves that, along with Hugh Freeze. You've got assistants on the field, assistants in the booth. Somewhere along the way, when you know what hits the fan in the game, somebody's got to step up and say, no, this ain't going to fly. This is what we're doing. Somebody's got to make the adjustments. And if Hugh Freeze is not going to make the adjustments and the assistants are not going to make the adjustments, maybe it's time to clean house and shuffle the cards a little bit if you're Auburn, if this season continues to go this way. We'll see what happens there. We'll talk more about Auburn later on in the show. Got a lot more to discuss, though. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more on Full Court Blitz. Welcome back to Full Court Blitz. This is KJ McCurley alongside Alex Baumann. And Alex, it's time for Games of the Week, that SEC Spotlight. Got a few decent matchups. I know you're excited to talk about one in particular. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, the first one up on the slate this week, pretty light week for the SEC as a whole. A lot of teams on their bye week, Auburn being one of them, thankfully for a lot of fans, including UKJ. A good week off to recover.
Amen. I don't have the mental stress.
Can you imagine if Georgia was this week following last 2 weeks' games? But lucky for y'all. The first game we're going to talk about this week in our SEC Spotlight, 3 games every week. The first one this week, number 16 Vanderbilt travels to Bryant-Denny at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny to take on number 10 Alabama. Undefeated Vanderbilt, by the way, KJ. Pretty crazy.
It is crazy, and it's not crazy to think that Diego Pavia and Eli Stowers have had the success that they've had. They've just been on a tear this year, carving up defenses.
Last year, I think a lot of fans know what happened. Vanderbilt beat number 1 Alabama 40-35. They had lost all 60 previous games against AP top 5 teams and hadn't beaten Alabama in 40 years. And they still haven't beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa since 1984. That game, when I looked up that score when I was doing the prep for this week, KJ, 40-35, I didn't believe it at first because watching that game last year, felt like the score was a little bit different than that, a bigger margin for Vanderbilt. Alabama did not play well at all. Started out the game with an interception, some miscues here and there. Not one of Jalen Milroe's best performances held in check in the run game. It's a different Alabama team, though. Last week against Georgia, it was almost similar to last year's game in the sense where Alabama starts out hot in the first half, cools off in the second half. But the difference was, as bad as the defense played at times and how ineffective they were in the running defense, they held their ground and they came out with a win. And the defense got big stops when needed to get them. Two very different teams from last year, KJ. Vanderbilt, experienced, brought in a lot of talent, plays football a lot better than they did last year, even though they were really good last year. And Alabama, Jalen Milroe is not there anymore. Ty Simpson's dicing up defenses. Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann praised him for what he's been able to do and how unstoppable he played in that football game last week. Do you think Vanderbilt's able to repeat what they did last year and beat Alabama in their own house? Diego Pavia seems to think so with what he said today, KJ. I don't know if you saw that, talking about how if they play within the white lines, it won't even be close. Do you believe Diego Pavia, or is Alabama just too much for them this year?
I don't believe Diego Pavia understands how the tide can erupt inside of Saban Field. Now, Saban Field, I think that both teams are improved from what they had last year to offer. I think this is going to be a really good game. I think Vanderbilt comes out with offensive fire at first. I think you'll probably see them have some success running the football with Diego Pavia and Alexander, some 5.3 yards per carry this season for running back one for the Commodores. So good production there. I think if there's somebody that can step up from that receiving corps, be it Richardson with 18 catches for 236 on the year, or Sherrill with 17 receptions for 225 and 5 scores, be it one of the other, if they can step up and help out in the passing game, Eli Stowers is going to probably get a few double teams from Alabama's secondary, but Alabama is good enough to get to Eli Stowers with rushing 4 or 5 people. To Diego Pavia without rushing 4 or 5 people. And I think that's going to be the difference maker, is that they can send a 4-man front and get home. They can send a 3-man front and disrupt timing. And if they're able to do that, I think Bama comes away with a 1-score victory. I think if Vanderbilt can sustain that first half and keep moving the football on the ground, they can come away with the win as well. But I like Bama this time with them being at home. I think the Tide do enough to win.
It's clear what Alabama's weakness is. It's their run defense. Last week against Georgia, 227 yards on the ground, a lot of big runs for them, kept them in the football game. And what is Vanderbilt good at? Running the football. Diego Pavia, Cedric Alexander, Young, even Lassiter, their third running back. He's averaging 18 yards per carry. They're just going to throw bodies at you. Last year, Alabama struggled to stop the run against Vanderbilt. They struggled with discipline on defense. So many misdirections that Vanderbilt ran against them. Similar to what Florida State did in week 1. They're going to throw the same thing at Alabama. And I'm concerned about how the defense played last year and then against Florida State with the misdirection and how they responded. There was even times against Georgia last week where they got hit with a misdirection, a fake double reverse pass, and Georgia got 20, 30 yards off of it. That's something that Vanderbilt's going to throw at you left and right. They're going to throw out the triple option. They're going to throw out the RPO. They're going to throw everything they have at you. And I haven't seen from Kalen DeBoer and a Kane Womack coach defense the discipline to be able to stop that type of stuff. But I believe in the offense of Alabama to be able to keep up with Vanderbilt, where last year Jalen Milroe made too many mistakes for Alabama to get back in that football game, and the undisciplined penalties and some drops from receivers was a big issue. But this year, Ty Simpson's unscathed with turnovers. The receivers are playing outstanding. Even Ladazir Brooks off the bench played great last week, had a few big runs, even broke a tackle as a 5'9" receiver, was pretty crazy. It was like, where is he? Where is he in the pile? And then he squirts out and he's gone for an extra 10 yards. I just thoroughly believe that Alabama's offense will keep them in this football game where last year it cost them in the game. And the defense, it'll figure itself out. They'll be prepared for what Vanderbilt's going to throw at them, where last year they were kind of caught with their pants down again. They'll be ready for this, and I think Alabama gets the win, embracing their home crowd. That was the problem last year, was they didn't have a home field advantage, and this year they have it, and they'll be ready to take on Vanderbilt. Next game, KJ. Beginning of the year, you could say this was going to be one of the bigger games of the weekend. Now looking at it with how this one, really both teams are playing, makes you want to get a spoon and gouge your eyes out. Number 8, Texas plays Florida. Is this game going to be watchable?
To be honest, I think it'll be a competitive football game. I think that Florida will come out after what happened last year. You go out on the road last year and lose 49-17. 49-17 is a pretty handable defeat to drive all the way back to the swamp. This time they don't have to do that. And I just think they're going to come out with nothing to lose. I think the offense and DJ Lagway will come out and try to run the football, hopefully, to take the pressure off of DJ in the passing game on 3rd and long. But the main thing is Florida's defense has been sneakily good. Even though the wins and losses have not went as planned, and LSU maybe not be the best offensive team, they really, really made LSU look downright bad on a few drives, being Florida's defense. And I got to be honest with you, you alluded to it a little bit there, to introduce that with both teams kind of, with some stuff to figure out, because I'm going to be completely honest in saying I don't think Texas should be ranked. They haven't played enough good teams to lose what they've lost the way that they've lost and be ranked at number 9, in my opinion. I think they fall even further, and I actually think that the Florida Gators might upset Texas with how bad Arch is playing. That's not an easy place to go and overcome some of the stuff that he's done in the first half. I know Texas has some good defensive pieces, but I think Florida's going to find a way to win this close game for Billy Napier and really be a good thing for their program. Not turn the season around, but I think it'll be a good showing for Florida and the Gators on Saturday.
If you like offensive football, I would recommend not watching this football game because it's not going to be a lot of offense. Texas is 35% on 3rd down, and and then Florida is about 30.9% on 3rd down. Neither team can stay on the football field. DJ Lagway against LSU was completing more passes to the Tigers than he was to the Gators. I'm not sure if he's trying to go ahead and transfer to LSU and show Brian Kelly he knows who's on his football team next year, or what. Texas, Arch Manning is out here flexing on future car salesmen against Sam Houston State. I haven't seen anything on either offense to tell me that this game is going to be a shootout or anything like that. Both defenses are really good, especially Texas, one of the better defenses in the SEC and really in the country. Florida's has been playing pretty good all year long. I don't know what to expect from the offenses in this game, though. Who's going to be worse? Who's going to be better? What have you? Arch Manning, DJ Lagway, 2 of the biggest busts thus far into the season. Neither of them playing well at all after Heisman candidate talk in the offseason. I don't think Texas should be ranked either, KJ. Don't have a top 25 win. Didn't look any good against Ohio State in week 1. Your offense even struggled against teams like San Jose State and UTEP. What am I to expect from a Steve Sarkisian offense except excellence? That's what it was the past 2 years with Quinn Ewers. And this year, it's been anything but that with Arch Manning. And it's not all Arch Manning's fault. The offensive line's completely reshuffled. The weapons aren't there anymore. I think Texas has enough to beat Florida, but I would not be surprised if you're sitting there in the fourth quarter and it's 10-10 or 14-14. The offenses are just so bad, the defenses are just so good that it'll be a great defensive game, and it'll be kind of like the Florida LSU game where it's going to be a defensive battle between both of them.
Might be a game where something unusual decides the outcome, like a fake punt or an onside kick. And special teams have really plagued some teams lately and before, as the Tide would know.
Next game up, the last game of the Big Three we're going to talk about, Mississippi State taking on the highly ranked number 6 Texas A&M Aggies. Another team, don't know why they're ranked so high, but we'll talk about that a little bit later, KJ. A&M coming off a nail-biting win against Auburn, barely beating the most inept offense in the entire country. Mississippi State losing heartbreaking fashion in overtime to Tennessee. Thought Mississippi State had that game in the bag for a lot of it. Defense playing with their hair on fire. Is Mississippi State actually going to pull off the upset this time, or is Texas A&M just too much for them?
I think Texas A&M's a little too much for them, but I'm not disrespecting Mississippi State. I really like what I've seen from them against better opposition. I know they're not going to win a whole lot of games this year against really, really good teams. You saw that against Tennessee, maybe just not knowing how to win those close ones yet, but you got to like what you're seeing if you're a Bulldog fan for sure compared to last year. The trajectory of this team, there's a lot of guys that can potentially be 3-year contributors, maybe even get recognition on Sundays, particularly on defense. I think the Bulldogs will find a way to make this close, but I do think Texas A&M has a little too much.
I'm a Mississippi State believer. Thought they played well enough to beat Tennessee last week. Just a few miscues here and there ended up costing them that football game. I just love the energy that the players on that team play with. The defense is awesome. Jerron Manning on that team, felt like every time I flipped over to that game, he was there. He was in the play. He was all over the football field. And it's not just him. There's a bunch of players on that defense that played really, really well. The running back, Bothwell, who transferred from South Alabama, ran all over Tennessee's defense. Granted, Tennessee's defense has really struggled all year long. There's fire Tim Banks signs in the stadium every week. I think this is the game that Mississippi State finally figures it out, because Texas A&M did not look good against Auburn at all last week. And if Auburn had any ounce of offense, Auburn would have blown out Texas A&M last week. If they had a pulse on that side of the football, I truly believe Auburn would have a top 10 win against A&M. But they don't, because their offense is abysmal. Mike Elko, play calling and decision-making to throw the ball on 3rd and 1, similar to what Hugh Freeze. I'm worried about that. This is the game where Jeff Lebby once again makes a marquee win in year 2, also beating Arizona State earlier in the season, and shows what you need to do from year 1 to year 2 as a coach in this country, where you have other coaches, and I hate to be picking on Auburn again and again, but it's hard not to, where you have Hugh Freeze in year 3 showing the same thing over and over again, and you have a guy in Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State who just in 1 year has shown vast improvement. And even if he had lost to Arizona State and the way he lost to Tennessee, you can accept those type of games because you showed improvement and you battled and you were in those games till the very last play. And Hugh Freeze is not that type of way. I'm taking Mississippi State to pull off the upset against Texas A&M. Not impressed with what A&M's done this far on the defensive side of the football, and the offense has a lot of work to do, even though they did great things last week.
Yeah, I agree with some of that. I think Texas A&M can be extremely one-sided. I think that might really hurt them in this game if they rely too much on what their running back production can do.
It's time for the upset alert, KJ. Not a lot of games to pick from this week. There's really, I guess you could say 2, maybe 3 matchups at most where you can pick the upset. Who do you think pulls off the upset this week?
Well, I already picked them a while ago, but I'll pick them again. I think Florida finds a way to get the job done. I think that they're really wanting to play for Coach Napier. They showed that against LSU. They're trying to fight through tough times, which the competitor in me really appreciates that and enjoys seeing that. They're really trying to, persevere. Tough schedule. Probably not going to win a whole lot of games going forward, but this is a team that, with a struggling offense as is and an athletic defense that you have in Florida, I think this is one of those games you can create one of those Arch Manning turnovers and take them to the house. And you start taking some of those to the house, get some help from special teams. You never know what can happen in the fourth quarter. So my upset alert for the week, I'm taking the Gators to down the Longhorns in the swamp.
I already said Mississippi State was my upset this week. I think they're going to pull off the game against Mississippi State. Love what they have on the defensive side of the football. Lost a couple of players last week to injury. Lost the right tackle, Albert Reese, to injury last week too. I can't say it enough. I love the energy and the attitude of the team on the field and on the sidelines. It's hard for me not to see that every game and be like, I want to get up. I want to get on the field and suit up for Jeff Levy. He fires me up, and the team fires me up with their attitude. So I'm going to take Mississippi State to pull off this upset. Love the team. Even if they lose this game and they go 2-10 on the season. Love the improvement. They battle. They're out there to play for their coach and play for their fan base, which I can't say for some teams around the SEC right now.
Yeah, they're all or nothing, 3 sheets to the wind type coach. Mike Levy, he's got that program going on. It's like those guys want to run through a wall if they're out there.
Yeah. Other 2 games in the Blitz picks this week, KJ, not a lot to talk about. Kentucky takes on number 12 in Georgia. Do the Wildcats put up even an ounce of a fight against the Bulldogs?
Listen, this game has been respectable in years past, but I think Georgia is really ticked off after what happened last week, and I think Kentucky's just going to catch one. I just don't think this is going to be anything worth noting. I don't think it'll be very pretty. Got the Bulldogs in a big one.
I got the Bulldogs in a big one as well. Kentucky starting a redshirt freshman quarterback who played bad last week against South Carolina, who's been struggling themselves. And Kirby Smart's 9-0 against Kentucky in his coaching career at Georgia. Don't see it changing this weekend. In the last game on the SEC slate, Kent State versus number 5, Oklahoma. Does Kent State stand a chance?
I'm almost laughing that this was our last pick. and I'm not faulting it. There's just nothing better. And they don't stand a chance. Kent State could start, and Kent State could have their choice at any 2 top 10 NFL players to come play for one weekend, and they'd still probably catch it.
Yeah, they don't stand a chance, even though John Mateer's not suiting up. Oklahoma could roll out the walk-on quarterback and still win this matchup.
And take auditions Friday night. Have your shot to fill in against Kent State.
The last 2 segments of this part of the show, KJ, 2 of my favorite ones. The first one, in the hot seat. I think I know where this is going, but which coach, player, or team has the most to prove this weekend? Or even next weekend, if I know who you're going to talk about.
You know who I'm going to talk about. The Auburn Tigers have the most to prove, and if Hugh Freeze's seat was any hotter, I think he would start grabbing his pants and look for a pool to jump in, because this has been a dumpster fire to watch this year on offense. The decision-making, I was appalled that the only time we want to run the ball is when it's 3rd and long, and the only time we want to throw it over the middle of the field is when our quarterback's just trying to avoid a sack, and the only time we want to throw the ball down the field, but not throw the ball down the field plus 20 yards. Just throw it 10 to 15 intermediate crossing route, like most teams have in their standard set of offensive plays, when you just need 7 or 8 yards to go execute a slant or a deep crosser. We don't know what that is. We've never heard of that. We've never heard of RPOs. We've never heard of just getting under center and lining up and running the football on 3rd and short. We've got to throw a bootleg in there and get boot dumped on the ground shortly after, because Xavier Chaplin's bound to miss a block, or if the play even resumes, if he didn't jump off sides first. This thing is a dumpster fire. You've got to use some different players. Stop talking about using different players. Use different players if you think it's personnel. If it's play calling, control the play calling, or figure out what you want to call, because what's been going on has not been working, in particular on 3rd down. You've not won 2nd down at all. It's created a lot of 3rd and longs, and you just look clueless as a football team. And, I said it before in the first segment, when is Auburn going to have enough of just being just enough to get by and just enough to compete? And when are they going to, have enough and get over the edge? Hugh Freeze's seat is very hot. I will say this, if he does not at least have one of the other between Alabama and Georgia as a 1-score game or lower going into the 4th quarter, if they are both blowouts and the team looks unconvinced, uninspired, both teams, both games, it's time to go. I think that's the situation for Hugh Freeze right now. It's a 2-game season for him. Should be, as in my opinion, as a fan and of the sport and of the team.
And all the Auburn fans sitting here saying, well, those are our best players on the football field. Well, it can't get any worse. Put the true freshman out there. It honestly cannot get any worse at any position on the football field, except maybe a receiver. The part of the receiver is the fact you don't coach them and you don't give them the ball in the right situations. Anything else can only get better. Offensive line can only get better, and your quarterback can only get better, as much as it's somewhat not his fault.
Yeah, I used to get tickled when we had Ryan Davis, if you remember that name. Ryan Davis, man, he can't say Auburn hadn't had no good receivers, man. He broke the record against Alabama in the Iron Bowl for receptions. Yeah, well, imagine if we did something to him other than throw it 5 yards on a quick screen. I can only imagine.
My coaching team in the hot seat this week is Kane Womack, the defensive coordinator at Alabama, and the run defense. And not in the sense where if the run defense looks bad this week, he's fired and he's out the door. You're on the hot seat because Vanderbilt talked about it earlier. Averaged 223 yards per game, rushing yards per game, 18th in the country. Next game, you play Missouri. They average 292 rushing yards per game. That's 3rd in the SEC. Maud Hardy's the best running back in the country right now. And you give up 227 rushing yards to Georgia last game, and what many would say is not the best rushing attack in the SEC and really in the country. Running backs are not what they used to be. There's no Nick Chubb and Sony Michel and Todd Gurley back there. It's Nate Frazier, who can't hold onto the football, and a Chauncey Bowens and Cash Jones, who stumbles trying to get a first down. Alabama is allowing the 3rd most rushing yards per game in the SEC at 160.5. Watching the game last week, loss contained numerous times. Damani Jackson felt like every play was chasing the running back on the edge. There was no discipline from him. There's no willingness to go make that tackle. And what I saw later in the game is we put in guys like Red Morgan and Drake Kirkpatrick Jr. and Dijon Lee. And on that big 3rd down, they were swarming to the football. They were out there trying to make that big hit. Maybe it's a willpower thing for guys like Damani Jackson. Deion Sanders was notorious for not wanting to go up and tackle. He even admitted it himself. You got to have guys not only at the linebacker and the defensive line position and even the safety position with Bray Hubbard that want to go out there and want to tackle. They want to lay the wood. They want to hit that player and not injure him, target him, so to say. Just go out there and give me a tackle. Go out there and give me the effort. And I haven't seen that from a lot of players on the defensive side of the football. And against Vanderbilt last year, Defense did not look good. Undisciplined, gave up so many yards, gave up so many long pass plays because you're looking the wrong direction, biting on the run player, the read option, and there's the running back 50 yards down the field. That's still ringing in my head right now as we got caught looking in the backfield, and I think it was Cedric Alexander is down the field and scores the touchdown, wide open in the end zone. Horrible. Kane Womack's got to show me something this week with the run defense because his entire time at Alabama as defensive coordinator, it's the same old, can't stop the run, semi-decent against the pass. Something's got to change, either the scheme or the players, or even the coaching. Last segment here, KJ, the on the rise. Pick a player, or coach, or team that has shown improvement or really come up to the scene in the last couple of weeks. Who do you have as your on the rise?
Well, I will stick with the theme that I've had the last few weeks of picking somebody from Auburn, even though there's not a whole lot of good that I can pick from. I will say that there was a few performances individually that I was really pleased with. The defense as a whole, we said it earlier, kept Auburn in the game for sure. The Auburn defense, I don't think a whole lot of people had on their bingo card for Auburn to be the top SEC rushing defense in most categories, and they are that so far and have looked very good in that department so far this year. They've got after the passer when they've had to. DJ Durkin, I've criticized him at times for his three-man rushes, which I think are useless to football. I'm not a fan of three-man rushes unless you just have three mastodons that can just get it done. I think they're, a waste of time. I think four gives an offensive lineman some sweat as you have 5-on-4, but 5-on-3, you don't have enough.
No pressure.
There's just not enough pressure. I thought DJ did a really good job of disguising pressure the last few weeks. And an individual performance on offense that I was actually really pleased with was Cam Coleman. I thought that when he got the football, again, he looked really good. It's, with Cam, he is the type of guy that not only wants to go get the big one, but the reason that I think he's so special and only wish that he had an offensive line passing game to be fully in sync with is that this guy not only wants to go catch the contested ball and flex afterwards and go streak down the field, he wants to block for the running game. You see him on the running plays on the sideline just bulldozing people. A lot of people around the Auburn program will tell you that's why Perry Thompson may not be getting a whole lot of snaps right now. So he's not a great blocker in the running game. Auburn, when they run the football, they haven't done much of it, but when they have ran the football, it has usually been on the side that Cam Coleman is helping block for because he's just a big body, wide frame. He wants to be physical, and I just love what he brought to the table through some more adversity. You can only imagine if he had a great passing game. But the defense in particular for Auburn, spectacular, kept us in it. Really proud of the effort, in particular, that defensive line. The 7-man unit has just been really good the last few games, multiple players getting sacks.
I was at the game that Wilkin Formby played USF, and I don't know what else to say, but I just wanted to die in the stands watching him try to play right tackle. He was horrible. I have seen people in high school block better than him than they did against USF. It was almost like Xavier Chaplin this year for Auburn. It was either a pre-snap penalty, he's getting blown off the line, or it's a holding call. But then I go to this game, and it's just like, wow, the development of this guy has surprised me. I truly thought he wasn't going to last on the offensive line this year. But what I saw against Georgia, received a 93.2 pass block grade from Pro Football Focus against Georgia, which was first among all offensive linemen in Week 5. Awesome. And then the rest of the offensive line. The starting offensive line allowed only one pressure against Georgia, and that was Geno Vandermark, who's probably the weakest of the bunch. And you rotated a ton of guys, too. It wasn't just the same 5 guys the entire game. Caden Proctor and Parker Brailsford played 79 snaps. Formby played 72. Vandermark played 54. Cam Dewberry played 53. William Sanders played 26. Michael Carroll played 25. Jaden Roberts played 7. And Jackson Lloyd played 2. You're getting the young guys' experience. They're holding up in the protections. You have a guy in Wilkin Formby who last year was wondering if he was even going to get playing time, and he's He comes out as the best pass blocking grade of any player in the country. The growth of him and the entire offensive line has helped Ty Simpson in the run game, even though it has struggled due to injury to Jam Miller, grow. Ty Simpson would have not had the success he had against Georgia if he didn't have guys like Wilkin Formby and Caden Proctor and Parker Brailsford blocking for him. If we got the blocking that we got against USF last year, that we got against Georgia, that game would have not even been close. Ty Simpson would have been similar to what Jackson Arnold is and eating dirt every 2 seconds of the football game. I'm just super impressed by what the development has taken place there and the willingness that Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb have switching out even true freshmen in a game of that magnitude and the pressure in the pocket still being able to hold tall. The one thing I do worry about is the run blocking did struggle in the interior at times, but that'll come with testing defenses over and over again. Just super impressed by the offensive line after years and years of struggles across it, even under Saban.
Yeah, no doubt about that, Alex. And that's going to wrap up that segment of On the Rise. When we come back, we'll have That's Tough or That's Enough right here on Full Court Blitz. Welcome back to Full Court Blitz. This is KJ McCurley. It is time, Alex, for That's Tough or That's Enough. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, we got a few football topics this week. First up, you heard from us about Texas. Earlier, you did not hear about our thoughts on Penn State. If you remember, Penn State was my pick last week over Oregon. Didn't fare well.
I picked Oregon.
Yeah,
I didn't fall for the James Franklin mess.
Yeah, I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. But what do Texas and Penn State have in common? They are the only teams, Alex, ranked in the AP poll top 10 without a top 25 win. Are both of them still tough, or have you had enough of each of them in the playoff contender push talking?
Well, I've had enough of the AP poll in general. It means absolutely nothing to me, to fans, to anybody until they release the College Football Playoff Committee poll. Why is Florida State behind Alabama? The head-to-head, they beat Alabama. It means nothing to me. It's an absolute joke. We rank based on preseason hype and what we expect the teams to be like, not what they are on the field. What we expect, and then we change our ratings as the season goes on. That's backwards. That's a backwards mentality. It should be what we see on the football field, not what we expect. And what we've seen on the football field from Texas, already talked about it. Horrible offense, great defense. Think Sark's a great head coach. They'll figure it out on offense. I truly believe that. If it's with or without Arch Manning, he will figure it out. But James Franklin, that's a whole other story. He is a joke. A joke. 2-21 against AP top 6 opponents and has lost 15 such straight games. Second worst record all time against AP top 6 opponents.
Yeah, to back that up, he's 1-15 versus the top 5. He's 4-21 overall versus the top 10. He's 15-30 versus the top 25. And against his two arch rivals, Michigan and Ohio State, 4-17. That's not going to get the job done in Happy Valley.
Any other really place in maybe the Big Ten outside of the Michigan and the Ohio State and the Oregons of the world, James Franklin would be perfectly fine doing that type of stuff because he's won games here and there. He's got a pretty good record every year. But Penn State is not Rutgers. It's not Northwestern. They expect excellence. They expect to be in the national championship almost every year, if not every year. And they're not because James Franklin can't coach in big games. And his quarterback can't play in big games. Drew Aller against top 6 opponents as a starter, 0-5, 49% completion percentage, 5.1 pass yards per attempt, and a 5-4 pass touchdown to interception ratio. And last year through interception that ended their season, and the game against Oregon, what did he do in overtime? Throw an interception to end the game. It's clear James Franklin made the mistake and picked Drew Aller over Bo Prabula, who's now at Missouri lighting it up. That just goes once again to show me that James Franklin is a joke and a terrible head coach at Penn State. Time to go, buddy. They need to make the change. And you can say, oh, well, who's going to be better than James Franklin? Can't get any worse. It's like Hugh Freeze at Auburn. Can't get any worse.
I mean, it was a little worse with Brian Harsin. We were losing by a wider margin and losing in recruiting to Troy and South Alabama. And
Well, that's because you hired the potato farmer from Idaho instead of a person that actually knew how to recruit.
I agree wholeheartedly. I've had enough of the Penn State talk with the being a top team. Not anymore. Not in the Big Ten. You're going to have to show me that you can play a little bit better football than that. They do expect excellence there. This was a program that in the talk about the 80s and 90s, what those guys were like. And James Franklin was hired with the expectation to kind of restore, and he did restore Vanderbilt, and he restored Penn State from the mess they were in before he took it over. But he's not the coach that gets you over the hump.
Yeah,
kind of like Hugh Freeze. He's done a good job of restoring it from Brian Harsin. We've got the players now, but we've just not took the next step.
Yep.
Second talking point for Tougher Enough, the Cowboys and Packers tied 40-40 on Sunday Night Football. Do you think it's tough to leave games in a tie, or have you had enough of games ending in a tie, Alex?
If I wanted to see a game end in a tie, I'd sit there and watch a 90-minute soccer match. And watching a soccer match is absolutely abysmal. Makes you want to gouge your eyes out. It's so boring, and I
could not agree more.
It's probably awesome and enjoyable to play because you're running up and down the field constantly. But watching it, what are we doing? Terrible to watch. I love college football overtime rules after the changes they've made in recent years, and I think the NFL should go ahead and adopt those. It's not like games are going to take 15 hours to complete. You're not going to have the A&M LSU game from 5 or 6 years ago that took 8 overtimes to complete, 9 overtimes to complete. They're usually over by about 4 or 5 overtimes at the most. And I really do think it's fair for both teams. That's a big thing a lot of people harp on for before the NFL changed it. It's fair for both teams. You get a chance to have the football, and it makes it to where there's actually a winner at the end of it, where I don't sit there at 11:30 on a Sunday night when I have work the next morning and go, wow, this is a great game. Well, guess what? Ended in a tie, 40-40. Go to bed now. You wasted 5 hours of your life watching a football game. I'm over the NFL overtime rules.
Yeah, me and you both. I was really glad that they at least with overtime started giving teams chances to match, because it was absolutely stupid that if you scored first, you walked. I mean, the biggest thing out that was the Josh Allen Buffalo Bills.
Yep.
That's what changed that. But the tie thing is I agree. It's enough. It's atrocious for the sport. You don't practice that hard all week. You don't go through all that you go through in the game to play for overtime and play for a tie within the overtime period. No, you play to get to overtime, to win in overtime, to give the fans free football, but not free football that leaves the fans going home wondering and guessing why and what if. This is just something that needs to be changed. Absolutely, 100% agree with you on that one. I can't stand it. I can't stand games ending in a tie.
Me either. Can't stand it.
The last point, we'll wrap it up. The Eagles and Buccaneers played, and it was a one-score affair, 31-25. Great game, by the way. The Eagles are one of 2 undefeated teams in the NFL, but they have had several close calls. The Buccaneers as well, a pretty good opponent. Baker Mayfield having an outstanding year. Are the Eagles tough, or have you heard enough contender talk in Philly?
They'll be contenders just because their defense is good and they have weapons on offense. When they get into crunch time, they'll be able to win those big games. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl, though. Jalen Hurts, I don't know if he's forgotten how to throw the football or how to complete a pass, or if A.J. Brown's on the football field with him or not. But in the second half against the Bucs, he was 0 of 8 throwing the football. He's 27th in the league in passing yards. He's only averaging 152 passing yards per game, which is Cam Ward averages more, who quoted himself saying he is, I can't repeat the word on the podcast, but it's a synonym for butt. J.J. McCarthy, Tyrod Taylor, and Joe Burrow he's only ahead of those 3 guys. And Joe Burrow's been out for 2 weeks with a toe injury. He's been sacked 9 times, which is tied for 8th in the NFL. And against the Bucs, Saquon scored on a fake tush push, and Jalen Hurts threw one of his 2 touchdown passes on another variation of the play. It feels like the Eagles' offense is totally based on the tush push and either faking it or doing it.
Or Saquon.
Yeah. And if they don't have that going for them, Nick Sirianni, the offensive coordinator, crap their pants and turn to Hugh Freeze. That's what happens, and that's what I worry about for the Eagles to be able to get back to where they were last year and winning the Super Bowl. Not a believer in the fact they're going to win it, but I'm still a believer that they'll be in the playoffs and contending for it, just not winning it.
You just find a way to throw that up as much as possible.
I do. Just like I would expect Auburn fans to do it if Kalen DeBoer was the same way.
Yeah, for a while this year, it kind of looked like it could be both programs trending in the right direction, but that's not been the case so far. And that's the end of our show. We hope you guys enjoyed it, had fun listening. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on your usual listening platforms. We'll be with you every week. Enjoy your weekend. Be with us next time right here on Full Court Blitz.